switch me. You can give me one of those, and you can have the joy of using one of yours.
That's so cool.
Yeah, how are you?
We're good.
Yeah, so Barry says hello.
What's Barry?
Well, Barry lives in Boston, and he has he's married, and he has a daughter. She's 7, and they're married.
Wow.
On the phone. And we haven't seen each other actually since you were 13. Since you graduated from the
Were you on the screen right away?
I recognize the name.
Well, I recognize you. So, what do you up to these days?
Living here, obviously. Working doctor.
No. Oh, very nice. Oh, wow, that must be really good.
All day.
I'll do it all night and then some. Good for you. Congratulations. Good year as your doctor. And how are your parents?
They're wonderful.
You say you hang out with them yet?
I will. Yeah, no, I have.
So I know Aaron's mother better than the father because when children in elementary school go to each other's birthday parties, usually the mothers do the transportation.
Right.
Usually. Nothing sexist, but that's what happens. So Aaron and his mother came over to our place 7 years in a row.
Like best friend.
Very nice. And how about yourself? Lovely. Lovely.
Living downtown is very fun right now.
Why is that? Because it's deserted? Or?
No, because it's just open. I wish I had a yard or my neighborhood was more quiet.
I always go to
No, they moved after finishing high school. They started to.
Oh, wow.
Well, we're on some Ann Adler thing yesterday,
So this
and
whole
most people said,
Isn't it?
I think they're having a great time.
I like it when it's over, but it's hot.
It's for like hours and hours on walks every day.
10 minutes left. They do a lot of that.
Well, it was lovely to touch base with you. We'll see you on Zoom and nice to have you here. And
Right. You have to leave children alone. You have to take yourself.
Let's see here.
Hi, Marielle. All good. How about you? How's the house and the baby? Not necessarily in that order.
Moving along, wasn't good. The house is pretty much ready for the baby. So
Okay, good.
that makes me feel pretty good.
You for me?
I just wanted, I wasn't sure if you needed to set up kids shows, but I don't think you did. I wasn't sure about kids shows, but I don't think so.
No, I have some extras. Well, regular chairs.
Well, yeah, because I wasn't sure if you like kids games, like little kids, like Shabbat games. But I don't think, I'm seeing most of the kids are like 12
I
and
might
up.
bring out a high chair for that.
Yeah, I'll just see if there are babies. Okay, thanks. You know, I think we only got 44 dollars. I think that's all we got. So yeah, usually we overbook, but they came from the people who are doing the dinner. So you know, I'm not
She's like, I don't get my all, I'm going home. I'm sure you ever heard us. I was kind of having like a family little joke. You kind of taking me seriously. Well, we'll just put one table.
It's weird when we're used to starting at 7.
Hello.
Are we live? Shabbat Shalom, everyone. So just a word for those that are watching at home that are joining us. We're outside, of course, as we always are or have been lately. But joining us in the congregation tonight is our JIC class, our Jewish Information class. These are 18 different units. Is that where we're at? 19 units. I'm not sure what a unit is, but it's the term of the day. That are exploring Judaism. Some are partnered with a Jewish person by birth. Others are exploring it together, perhaps for conversion or just for information. And so they're our congregation tonight. So we're going to explain things as we go. That's for the people online, but it's also for all of you. We're going to do a fairly typical Friday night service. Many of you have watched our services before online, but we're also going to try to explain little bits along the way. So if it feels a little bit like a learner's, service, then so be it, I guess. But we'll start with some music. Can't you tell?
So we don't usually tell you what page we start on, but you'll eventually know. It's 128 at the top. Hine Matov. Hine Matov u'manayim shevet achim gam yachad. Hine Matov shevet achim gam yachad. Hine Matov u'manayim shevet achim gam yachad. Hine matov shevet achim gam yachad. And immediately below that, Ma yafeh hayom, how beautiful is this day. It's easy to catch on to, so try to sing along. Ma yafeh hayom, Shabbat shalom. Ma yafeh hayom, Shabbat shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat shalom. Shabbat shalom. Ma yafeh hayom, Shabbat shalom. Ma yafeh hayom, Shabbat shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat shalom. Shabbat shalom.
These opening songs, and we're going to do a few more, are part of the service that's called Kabbalat Shabbat. The whole service can really be referred to as Kabbalat Shabbat. You might have heard of Kabbalah. We're not talking about the Madonna, Roseanne Barr version of Kabbalah here. We can talk about that, but not now. But Kabbalah means to receive, and so it's the idea that Shabbat enters into the world, sometimes personified, sort of mystically as a bride or a queen, but that when the sun sets, the Sabbath enters, and we greet it. We greet it with song like one would greet an honored guest. And so we sing some psalms, traditional words of praise, to sort of get us into the mood and to welcome Shabbat with song and with praise. So we're going to continue on page 133. Sorry, 131, right?
That's right.
Yeah, 131 with Psalm 96. Shir lo Adonai, Shir Chadash. We sing unto God a new song.
Shiru l'Adonai, Shir Chadash, Shiru l'Adonai, Kol haaretz. Shiru l'Adonai, Baruch Shemo, Basru miyom liyom Yeshuato, Sapru v'goyim kevodo, Bechol ha'amim niflehotav, Ki gadol Adonai, Humhu meyod, Norahu, Al kol Elohim, ay,
For those that grew up in Jewish homes or Hebrew school, melodies may seem different right now. Not what you grew up with. That particular melody is a fairly new or newish, Jewish newish one. But and sometimes there can be a little discordance with that, because we think that the melody is the prayer, but it's really the words of the prayer. The melody is the vehicle to express the prayer. But one that is familiar to many is Shalom Aleichem, page 142. It's in a more traditional mode, traditional in the sense that we've been doing it for maybe 60, 70, 80 years, and which is fairly new in the span of Jewish history and culture. But here again, we welcome Shalom Aleichem is the idea that we welcome the Sabbath as though the Sabbath was embodied by an angel. And in Judaism, we do have angels. They're considered to be expressions of God's personality, of affects of God, and these are the angels that come so that nobody feels alone on Shabbat. Shalom Aleichem is on page 142. That may be a more familiar melody for some.
Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech, Malachei Hamlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Boachem L'Shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech, Malachei Hamlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Baruchuni L'Shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech, Malachei Hamlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Seitzem L'Shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech, Malachei Hamlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
We're going to turn back in our prayer books now to page 121, right? Around there, somewhere near there. Yes. For a reading before the lighting of the Shabbos candles, and I'm going to ask Yael, and where's Yael? Jonah? Yael and Jonah, you guys want to come with your mom and dad and help light the Shabbos candles? No, stay on the playground. That's fine. We'll ask Rabbi Brown and her husband Greg to light the Shabbos candles. Page 121, there's a reading there. Yael, come help.
Gonna light the candles, Yael? Do the reading?
Can I light the candles? Sure.
Yeah.
I can't see. If you want to work, okay?
Here.
these Shabbat candles give light to all who behold them, so may we, by our lives, give light to all who behold us. As their brightness reminds us of the generations of Israel who have kindled light, so may we, in our day, be among those who kindle light.
It's okay. Shabbat Shalom. So we're going to turn to page 136. It's another one of those 138. I'm going to turn to 136. It's another one of those songs that's a personification of Shabbat, L'chadodi. And at the end of that song, when we get to verse 9, we're going to rise and turn around and face the pathway that you came in. So we'll face towards the parkade steps. And we're going to welcome the Sabbath. So we're going to turn around like Shabbat is walking in. And many people will bow at that time.
Lecha dodi likrat kala penei Shabbat nekabla Shamor v'zachor v'dibor echad Hishmiyanu el hamiuchad Adonai echad Ushmo echad l'shemo tiferet Letehila lecha dodi Likrat kala Penei Shabbat nekabla Likrat Shabbat lechu v'nelcha Ki hi mekor ha-beracha Mirosh mikedem nesucha Sof ma'aseh v'machshevat echila Lecha dodi Likrat kala Penei Shabbat nekabla Mikdash melech yir melucha Kumitzei mitoch ha'afecha Rav lach shevet b'amecha bacha V'hu yachamo alaychem la Lecha dodi Likrat kala Penei Shabbat nekabla.
Verse 5.
Hitoreri, hitoreri, Kiva orech, kumi ori, 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 shir daberi, Kavod Adonai, alayich nigla,
Now we're going to rise.
Lecha dodi,
And turn and face the back.
Likrat kala, Penei Shabbat nekabla.
Verse 9.
Boi v'shalom ateret bala Gam b'simcha u'tzola Toch emunei am segula Boi chala lecha dodi
You can turn back around.
Likrat kala Penei Shabbat nekabla.
So remain standing, and we transition now from that warm up part of the service to the central prayers of the service, and we do that through a prayer called the Kaddish or the Chatzi Kaddish. That's on 263, and we'll remain standing for that.
Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabba Melmad yivrachute v'yamlich malchute B'chayechon v'yomechon Uv'chayecho Beit Yisrael Bagala bagala Uvi
v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal Shemei Kudusha Barechu Leila Min Kol Berchata V'Shirata Tushbechata V'Nechemata Damiran Ve'ama Ve'himeru Amen.
So we're going to remain standing, and this next prayer called the Baruch Hu is the one that is the call to prayer. So in many traditions, and Islam in particular, is a call to prayer that someone calls out to let people know it's time to pray. This is the same idea. This is when we start to need the community of a minyan of 10 individuals together to go through the service. So that is on page 264. You'll see it's a call and response.
Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach
Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Leolam Vaed.
Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Leolam Vaed. You may be seated.
If anybody was wondering about the lights, it's unplugged.
So as we continue now, this next section of our service is one that we do every evening. It's different on Shabbat. We had the previous prayers that we did just for Shabbat, but now this is the same type of service that we do every single evening. And it begins with a blessing about creation and about all of the luminaries in the sky in the evening. So we're going to read this together in the Hebrew on page 265. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bidbaro ma'ariv aravim b'chochma poteach she'arim ובתבונה משנה עיתים, ומחליף את הזמנים, ומסדר את הכוכבים במשמרותיהם ברקיע כרצונו. בורא יום ולילה, גולל אור מפני חושך, וחושך מפני אור. ומעביר יום ומביא לילה, ומבדיל בין יום ובין לילה. אדוני צבאות שמו. אל חי וקיים תמיד ימלוך עלינו לעולם ועד. Baruch atah Adonai Ha'ma'ariv Aravim. Amen. And the second prayer on 266, Ahavat Olam, is giving thanks to God for giving us Torah, for giving us knowledge and wisdom. And this one we will chant together. Ahavat Olam Beit Yisrael Amcha Ahavta Torah mitzvot chukim u'mishpatim otanu limadeta Hakel Adonai Eloheinu b'shokbeinu u'vkumeinu nasiach b'chukecha v'nismach b'divrei Toratecha u'b'mitzvotecha le'olam le'olam va'ed Ki hem chayenu ve'orech yameinu uvahem nehege yomam v'layla V'yahavatecha al tasir mimenu le'olamim Baruch atah Adonai ohev amo Yisrael ohev amo So you'll see on page 267 the words are very centered and large. This is a very central part of our prayer service every morning and evening. It's called the Shema. It's the essential kind of statement of faith of Jewish people that says, "Hear, O Israel, listen, all you Jewish people. Adonai is our God. Adonai is one." So this is a really important statement of monotheism. If we think about the way we think about God, and it's very traditional when we sing the Shema to actually close our eyes. So if you want to, some of you might not know the words, so it's hard to close your eyes and look at the words at the same time. So I'll leave that up to you. But if you would like to close your eyes and just take it in, you certainly can with this beautiful melody. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Shema continues. It's actually a statement from the Torah, from the book of Deuteronomy, and it continues right into the text that follows Ve'ahavta on page 268, which talks about how we should speak and think about these words of Torah and Shema in all these different aspects of our lives.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך וקשרתם להיות על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים אני אדוני אלוהיכם אמת.
And on page 270, after this section of Shema, we always join in a song of redemption. It is a way of thinking about not only the redemption of our past, but also the potential redemption that we seek in future times. And so we sing this song. It's the same words our ancestors sang when they were freed at the shores of the sea during the Exodus from Egypt, page 270.
And we're using a high holiday melody because of the time of year that we're in. מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נהדר בקודש, נורא תהילות עושה פלא, מלכותך ראו בניך, בוקע ים לפני משה ומרים, זלי אנו ואמרו אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד ונאמר כי פדה אדוני את יעקב וגאלו מיד חזק ממנו ברוך אתה אדוני גאל ישראל.
Every evening there's a special prayer. We don't say any other service, but just at nighttime it's Hashkivenu, which is on 271. It's a little extra sort of lullaby. It is a prayer in which we ask that God will give us peace and shelter and the presence to be with us in the night so that we can wake up the next day with life renewed. So we'll join together with this song.
Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu Leshalom, Leshalom Vehamidenu Shomreinu Lechaim Ufros Aleinu Sukat Shlomecha Ufros Aleinu Sukat Shlomecha Amen. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu Leshalom, Leshalom Vehamidenu Shomreinu Lechaim Ufros Aleinu Sukat Shlomecha Ufros Aleinu Sukat Shlomecha Amen.
And on page 272 we sing these words from Torah that speak about this day of Shabbat, how it is that we as a people are instructed to keep Shabbat, to guard it and to make it holy. That this is this beautiful covenant that we have, the Jewish people and God, to make this day sacred and special. But there's an idea that Shabbat is not only something that we are to keep, but that Shabbat also keeps us, that it's something that gives us really just an incredible gift to be able to take each week one day to set aside for sanctity and holiness and this very different way of living. So we'll join together Vishamru at the top of that page. Vishamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat La'asot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam berit olam Beini uvein b'nei Yisrael Beini uvein b'nei Yisrael Beini uvein b'nei Yisrael Oti le'olam Yam bada bam bam bai Shabbat Shabbat Yam bada bam bam bai Shabbat Shabbat Yam bada bam bam bai Shabbat 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 Shalom Ki sheishet yamim asa Adonai et hashamayim ve'et haaretz u'bayom hashvi'i Shabbat vayinafash Yam bada bam bam bai Shabbat Shabbat Yam bada bam bam bai Shabbat Shabbat Yam bada bam bam bai Shabbat 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 Shalom. So we transition again now to a new part of our service, which has different names. Sometimes we call it Tefillah, which you can see on the big written in large letters on the top of 273, or sometimes it's called the Amidah because it's which means standing, because it's a standing prayer. It's kind of our offering of prayer that we give to God in this moment, and it's traditional during the Amidah that we always face toward Jerusalem. So here in the Western Hemisphere, we face toward the east, which works out nicely the way you're facing. Well, you kind of have to go this way. So we'll invite everyone to please rise and face toward the east on page 274. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei Avoteinu v'Imotenu Elohei Avraham Elohei Yitzchak v'Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah Elohei Rivka Elohei Rachel v'Elohei Leah Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor v'Hanorah El Elyon Gomel Chasadim Tovim V'Konei HaKol V'Zocher Chasdei Avot V'Imahot U'Mevi Geula Livnei V'neihem Leman Shemo Be'ahava Zochreinu Lechaim Melech HaBeitz B'Chaim V'Chod Beinu B'Sefer HaChaim Lema'ancha Elohim Chaim Melech Ozer Moshiach Magen Baruch atah Adonai Magen Avraham Bezrat Sarah Atah Gibor Leolam Adonai Mechlei Metim Atah Rav Lehoshia Morid Hatal Mechakel Chaim Bechesed Mechayei Meitim Berachamim Rabim Somech Noflim Verofei Cholim Umatir Asurim Umekayem Emunato Lishenei Afar Michamocha Baal Gevurot Umidom Elach Melech Mimid Umechayeh Umatzmiach Yeshua Michamocha Avarachamim Zocher Yitzurav Lechaim Barachamim V'ne'eman atah lechayot Meitim Baruch atah Adonai Mechayeh HaMeitim. Page 276. Atah Kadosh V'Shimcha Kadosh U'Kdoshim B'chol Yom Yamelu Chasela
Baruch atah Adonai HaMelech HaKadosh.
You are holy, your name is holy, and those who are holy praise you every day. Blessed are you, Adonai, holy sovereign. Amen. Please be seated. So you might have noticed there was some strange little fine print and asterisks going on in our prayer book. It just so happens that this is the one Shabbat a year where we use those. This Shabbat has a special name. It's called Shabbat Shuvah, which is the Shabbat that falls between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. And I'll speak about it a little bit more later in the service, but that's why we had those special editions. So we continue now with a prayer about the sanctity of Shabbat in this day, and Cantor Naomi will lead us on the bottom paragraph on page 277.
Eloheinu v'Avoteinu v'Imotenu, Ritzei v'Menuchateinu, Kadshenu b'mitzvotecha, V'tein chelkeinu b'toratecha, Sabeinu mituvecha, V'samcheinu b'shuatecha, V'taher libeinu, V'taher libeinu, V'taher libeinu le'avdecha b'emet, V'taher libeinu, V'taher libeinu, V'taher libeinu le'avdecha b'emet. Vanchileinu Adonai Eloheinu, ve'avav ratzon Shabbat kodshecha, ve'anucho ba'Yisrael, mekadshei shmecha, Baruch atah Adonai, mekadesh haShabbat. So I invite you, if you will, to read with me in the English in the middle of 278. May these hours of rest and renewal open our hearts to joy and our minds to truth. May all who struggle find rest on this day. May all who suffer find solace. May all who hurt find healing on this day. May all who despair find purpose. May all who hunger find fulfillment on this day. And may we all live in such a way that this day fulfill its promise. Baruch atah Adonai, mekadesh haShabbat. Ritzei Adonai Eloheinu, ve'amecha Yisrael, u'tefilatam be'ahava tekabel, u'tehin l'ratzon Tamid avodat Yisrael, Yisrael amecha, El karov lechol korav pnei, El avodecha v'choneinu, Shepoch ruchacha, Aleinu, v'techazena eineinu, v'shuvecha l'tzion, v'rachamim, Baruch atah Adonai, Hamachazir Shechinato Letzion, Letzion, Letzion.
An important part of prayer is gratitude. It's those expressions of giving thanks that we have in so many different moments of each day. And we can think about perhaps on Shabbat, if we take a look back at our week and all that we've experienced. We think about this a week ago. We were beginning Rosh Hashanah and a new year. and what this first year of the week was like for us. Maybe for some of us it was wonderful, and for others maybe not so great, but in any case there are certainly moments of gratitude that we can give thanks for. And so we do that in this next prayer called the Hoda'ah, and we often sing kind of the middle section of this prayer. So if you look on page 281, that middle paragraph, it begins Ve'al Kulam. That's where we'll start. Ve'al Kulam, Ve'al Kulam, Yitbarach v'yitromam, Yitbarach v'yitromam, Shimcha Malkeinu, Tamid le'olam va'ed. Ve'al kulam, ve'al kulam, Yitbarach v'yitromam, Yitbarach v'yitromam, Shimcha Malkeinu, Tamid le'olam va'ed. Uchtov lechaim, lechaim tovim, kol b'nei britecha, v'chol lechaim yoducha salah, v'hallelu et shimcha b'emet. Ha'el Yeshuateinu v'ezrateinu salah, Baruch atah Adonai, Hatov Shimcha, Ulecha na'eh lehodot. The final prayer of this section of our service is always one of shalom, of peace and wholeness. So that should be the last prayer that we utter as we stand before God. So page 282, Shalom Ra. Shalom Ra Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Ra Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Ki atah melech adon lecho hashalom. Ki atah melech adon lecho hashalom. Shalom Ra Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Ra Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Betov b'necha levarech et Amcha Yisrael b'chol עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. Shalom Ra Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Ra Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. V'sefer Chaim Baracha v'Shalom u'Parnasa Tova, Nizacher v'nikatev lefanecha, Anachnu v'chol Amcha Beit Yisrael. L'chaim tovim, Ol Shalom. Baruch atah Adonai, Oseh HaShalom. Amen. Because there are some prayers that are not in the siddur, in the prayer book, but that are in our hearts, we take a moment for personal prayer, just a moment of silence. turn way ahead in the siddur to page 371. We always take a moment as well when we're gathered in community and prayer to offer a prayer of healing for all of those in our congregation who we have invited to let us know if they would like a prayer for healing for their recovery, as well as for people who are beyond our congregation, those people in the lives of our members who are ill and are struggling. We include them in our prayers as well. So I'm going to read a list of names of people that we are praying for as a congregation, and then if there are other names that you want to include, people that you are thinking of, you're welcome to speak their names out loud when I invite you to do so. So we are especially thinking of Tobin Robbins, Judy Sipe, Elliot Cole, Sanford Cohen, Schneer Zalman Ben Meir Leib, Francis Hirush, Jean Angus, Shane N., Roger Seelig, Sarah Chiachi, Helen Heacock Rivers, Mary Coheen, Bella Sherman, Kim Bennett, Yochana bat Gershon veYosefa, Sarah bat Avraham v'Sara, Igor Ilyasov, Ed Ozer, David Shlomo Gorney, Denise Huguet, Ronnie Goldberg, Andrea Jarjbiak, Ari Schwartz, Maureen Newman, Neil Tapley, and Yana Timko, as well as any names you'd like to add. Ben Hart. Misha Be'erach Avoteinu Mekor HaBracha Le'imotenu. May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Misha Be'erach Imotenu Mekor HaBracha Le'avotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen. So I want to share just a few words of announcements and then a brief Devar Torah. So as I think we're all aware, Yom Kippur is coming soon. So Kol Nidre will be Sunday night, and the rest of Yom Kippur on Monday. You can find all the information of our services and the links for the various services and study sessions on our temple website. I also want to just look forward a little bit past Yom Kippur to Sukkot, which comes very quickly after Yom Kippur, which will be next Shabbat, actually. So we're doing a number of different things out here in our beautiful Temple Sholom garden to be able to observe Sukkot and do it because it's an outdoor holiday in a COVID-friendly manner. So you should have seen in Temple Happenings a number of different activities that will be taking place for Sukkot. We're going to be having a seniors lunch. Our JIC class will be here on Tuesday night. We're going to have a next generation for those in their 20s and 30s, sushi in the sukkah out here on Wednesday of Sukkot. And we'll be doing a few other things as well. Oh, wine and cheese for kind of targeted to our empty nesters. So a lot of different opportunities to get together in person with members of your Temple Sholom family. So we're looking forward to seeing you then. Any other announcements, Rabbi Dan?
No, I think you covered it.
Okay, great. So I mentioned that
the Project Isaiah.
Oh, great! Yes, Project Isaiah is our annual high holiday food drive to help to stock our Jewish food bank. It's always one of the most important efforts during the year to make sure that those families and individuals who rely on food from the Jewish food bank have that accessible to them. Usually we bring it on Yom Kippur to the synagogue in this massive food drive, but since we're not gathering in person, there's going to be a drive-through at the BIVTT Parkade on Tuesday, on the 29th. So there is information on our website. You can find out more, but please, if you can, to bring some healthy, nutritious, non-perishable items. It's greatly appreciated to help support those in need. Okay, so on Shabbat Shuvah, we do some different things, like the changes in our prayer book that we saw tonight in our service. There's also the ancient and medieval tradition of the rabbi giving the longest sermon of the year on Shabbat Shuvah. We don't do that. You get them bookended around it. But, you know, we are supposed to kind of hold ourselves a little bit differently on the Shabbat, because we're really in the midst of this process of tshuva, of repentance, and we're really, you know, spending a great deal of time, well, maybe not in synagogue, but online and connected to these ideas. But these laws of tshuva, we've been studying them together in our JIC class. Many of us have been thinking about them a lot, but they're really difficult. It's really hard to know what it means to repent. And I want to tell a story tonight that I think is a wonderful example of what it means to really be aware of your actions and to change your ways. And it's an old story that actually comes from the Talmud. It's a story about Rabbi Eliezer, who was known to be one of the greatest Torah scholars of his generation. And one day he was returning home from a long day of study, and he was riding high on his donkey, feeling quite self-satisfied, quite good about himself. And during the course of his trip, Rabbi Eliezer happened upon a man who he thought, can you not hear from the plane?
That's fun timing.
Happened the same thing Rabbi Eliezer's time.
Eliezer, the plane flew by. No. So Rabbi Eliezer saw this man and thought to himself, that is an ugly man. But the man greeted him warmly and with appropriate respect. But Rabbi Eliezer was shocked by his appearance. He had never seen anyone so horrible looking. And he responded to this man's greeting with amazement and wonder. "Whoa," the rabbi declared. You seem very, very strange to me. Is everyone around here as ugly as you?" The man was stung by the reaction of the sage. And the man took a moment to reply. He said, "Is everyone here as ugly as I am?" "I do not know," said the man. "Perhaps you, Rabbi, should go and tell God, the craftsman who made me, that I, God's divine creation, am ugly." Well, snapped back to reality by this rebuke, the Torah scholar Rabbi Eliezer descended from his donkey and threw himself on the ground in front of the peasant. forgive me, please," he begged the peasant man. But the man did not make it simple for that rabbi and refused to forgive him on the spot. So Rabbi Eliezer proceeded to walk behind the man, begging for his forgiveness until the peasant led him all the way to Rabbi Eliezer's home village. There in the town square, the peasant man announced the rabbi's sin to the entire community. And after the intervention of the town folk, the peasant man agreed to forgive the rabbi because Rabbi Eliezer agreed never to insult another human being in the same manner again. Here was a man, a great Torah scholar, who was put in his place by someone who was unlearned, a peasant. We should all be so lucky to meet a human being, like that man on our paths, who hold up mirrors to our characters and reflect back our deeds. Those mirrors do not appear out of nowhere, but in fact, this time of year tells us they are always available. But we have to be willing to look for them and open to seeing what reflection peers back at us. This Shabbat Shuvah, in the season of repentance, I hope that we can each find the courage to look in those mirrors and the strength to confront that which stares back at us. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom, Yasher Koach.
Thank you, Rabbi Brown. So, you might have heard us say Yasher Koach. It's a traditional word of appreciation or phrase of appreciation. It means, well, technically I guess it means, well, literally it means straight up strength. But really, may you have strength, or you have strengthened us, or strength to you. And it's sort of a way of saying, well done. So try that with me, Yasher Koach. I haven't even done anything yet. That's good. We're going to turn to page 586, and we're going to rise for a prayer that reminds us that the whole point of prayer is not to just pray, but actually to motivate. That Judaism is a religion of action, and that the purpose of our prayers is to actually take our prayers out into the world and do the things that we're praying about. And it's aleinu, it's upon us to do what we've been saying. So we're going to rise, and we'll again face towards the east, page 586. There's some bowing that happens in this prayer. We're not bowing, we're not in front of the Ark or the Torah, but we're bowing towards Jerusalem, towards the east. We're bowing towards God.
Aleinu leshabeach ladon hakol, lateit gedula leotzer bereshit, shelo asanu kegoyei ha'aratzot, v'lo samanu k'mishpachot ha'adama, shelo samchelkenu kahem, v'gor aleinu k'cho hamonam, v'anachnu korim, u'mishtachavim u'modim, לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא שהוא נוטה שמיים ועושה הארץ ומשה בקרוב השמיים ממעל ושכינת עוזו בגבי מרומים הוא אלוהינו אין עוד אמת מלכנו אפס זולתו ככתוב בתורתו ודעת היום בשבותה אל לבבך כי אדוני הוא האלוהים בשמיים ממעל ועל הארץ מתחת אין עוד ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד.
You can turn back around and be seated for a moment. So our service always concludes with a prayer to remember loved ones who have died and whose memory we call upon to be a blessing in our lives, to continue to help guide us in what we do in honor of their memory. And usually we do a reading before that, some kind of poem to help us locate our emotions. I wanted to share one with you, page 594. It is a fearful thing to love what death can touch. A fearful thing to love, hope, and dream to be and also to lose. A thing for fools this, and a holy thing to love. For your life has lived in me, your laugh once lifted me, your word was a gift to me. To remember this brings a painful joy. 'Tis a human thing, love, a holy thing, to love what death has touched. We recall on this Shabbat those who died during this past week or these past 30 days, whose families are in the midst of a period called Shloshim, 30 days of mourning. As I read their names, their families who are maybe watching online, or I don't think any of them were here, would rise in memory of their loved ones. William Benjamin Billy Davids, Helen Glazer, Mark Mintz, Rabbi Sidney Shankin, Zelda Bluma Shore. And those for whom the Yortzeit, the anniversary of the death of their loved ones, falls on this Shabbat, they too, I hope, will rise in their homes as we call their names for blessing. David Aberley, Isidore Cherry, Zvi Cohen, Oscar Cohen, Maurice Deshevsky, Arnold Faust, Sue Feldman, Nathan Fielder, Milton Freeman, Margaret Fugman, Martin Haynes, Bessie Harowitz, Sidney Hendon, Isaac Herman, Maurice Lerman, Peggy Miller, Emil Nemirovsky, Alan Perlman, Harry Pohl, Marcia Raber, Manya Reisman, Lola Rodberg, Patricia Rogers, Miriam Sheffrin, Eva Shore, Mitch Schneider, Michael David Steiner, Mary Steiner, Edith White Stern, James Stigant, Herb Tapley, John Wormelli, Esther Zigdon. There's others who have come to say Kaddish, remember loved ones. If you could rise and call out their names one by one. And so we're going to look around. We see those that have risen in mourning. We don't want them to stand alone. And so we rise to provide the comfort of our presence, even socially distanced. To stand by someone is to let them know that we are standing with them. And we add to those names that we've read the names of all those who died in defense of freedom and justice, victims of terrorism in this land, the land of Israel around the world, those who died in the Shoah and the Holocaust that have no family left to remember them. We take it as our sacred obligation to remember them. And we add to that, in the midst of this pandemic, all of those who have lost their lives to COVID-19, so many around the world. Page 598. Yid Gadal, Yid Gadash, Shemei Rabbah, Yalma Divrach Herutev Yamlich Malchuteh, V'chayechon Yomechon of Chayei D'chol Beit Yisrael, V'agalav Izman Karib, Yimaru Amen. Yehi Shmei Rabbah Mevarach Le'olam Olomei Olmaya, Yitbarach V'yishtabach V'yitpa'ar V'yitroman V'yitnaseh, V'yitadar V'yit'aleh V'yit'alal Shemei D'kudishah B'richu, Le'elamin Kol Birchata V'shirata, Tushbechata V'nechemata, Damiron B'Oma V'yimaru Amen. Yehi Shlama Rabba Min Shemaya, V'chaim Aleinu V'al Kol Yisrael V'yimaru Amen. Osei Shalom Yirmama, Uya Asei Shalom, Aleinu V'al Kol Yisrael, V'al Kol Yoshrei Teva V'yimaru Amen. May the source of peace and peace to all who mourn and comfort all the bereaved, and we say together, Amen. We're going to conclude our service with a kiddush and a motzi. If you all have a small challah bun on your table, so get ready with that, and we'll do kiddush. Oh, and wonderful. And Alexandra, the daughter of our cantor, is going to lead us in kiddush. That's on page 120. They're not going to forget. 122. Excuse me, 122.
שקידשנו במצוותיי ורצבנו, שבקודשו באהבה ורצון הנחילנו, זיכרון במעשה בראשית, כיום תחילה במקראי קודש, זכר ליציאת מצרים. אנו בחרת, אנו קידשת, מכל Shabbat Kodshecha Ve'ahavam Ratzon Kirchatanu Baruch Atah Adonai Mekadesh HaShabbat Amen.
L'chaim, to life.
you want to do more?
So if you will remove your collar from its protective cover. As I've commented before, if you put two of these next to your head, you can look like Princess Leia. Favorite thing to do in our home. Anyhow, and so we say the motzi together. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen.
Ose shalom bimromav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol yoshvei tevav, ve'imru amen. Ose shalom bimromav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol yoshvei tevav, ve'imru amen. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom. For those watching at home, services tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. are online. And for all those that are here, have a seat for a minute. We're going to explain how we're going to deal with dinner. Shabbat shalom. Yeah, Bernie, Bernie, come on. Okay. Bring the ladder.
All right, Shabbat Shalom, everyone again. So we are going to, in a moment, how are we going to, actually, Mariel, how are we going to do dinner distribution? Are they back?
Bernie. Is everything
It's at the back. It's at the back.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's at the- yeah.
So I'll have you come kind of one table at a time to come find me, and I've got the list, and we can